Today's topic is how to establish yourself as a subject matter expert. The prerequisite is that you are a subject matter expert, right? And if I use myself as an example, I'm an expert in the government contracting world. Do I know every single thing about federal government contracting? No, there's a whole bunch of stuff about the FAR that I don't care about, so I'll never be an expert at that. And so there's somebody else who's an expert at the FAR. But I am an overall subject matter expert on federal government contracting, in particular, how to make money. And so everything I do around that now is to demonstrate that. And that's what I want to walk through today with you. This is a LinkedIn Live, right? So it's a very fast-paced 20, 25-minute tutorial or training session. But I'm giving this to you out of a course that I have. It's a free course, and I'll tell you about it at the end. And if I forget, just ask me. But it's a free course that I put together for the chamber members that teaches you how to understand the purpose of subject matter expertise. Why is it important to what you're trying to do? And then how to use social media to demonstrate your SME status or to establish your subject matter expertise status in somebody else. And then I want to talk to you a little bit, depending on time I have, on using automation tactics to create your content. There's a way that I'm able to create all this content that I do and still do pretty much a full day's work on business development activities in real world capture activities on like $100 million plus opportunities. I'm still able to do all this content and you can too. And so I'll talk to you about some of the automation thing. And at the end, I've got this checklist that it too is a handout on its own. That's part of the course. I'd be happy to send that. But here it's this handout that just shows you how do you take a piece of content or something and use it multiple times that help you in establishing your SME status. So, hey, Valerie, thanks for chiming in there. Okay, so just so it's not obvious, my eyes are looking around, right? I have my course, and I'm just looking at that to remind me of what I want to say to you and to help me kind of move forward in a fairly fast manner. So the first thing is to think about, why is demonstrating that you're a subject matter expert, a SME, important? There's over 200,000 small businesses out there. There's hundreds of thousands of businesses out in the out there, and out there to me means the internet, right? So if a buyer or a market researcher is going to try to learn about a topic, or maybe they're looking for businesses, they're going to learn from subject matter experts who are putting content out that are teaching them. I'm a subject matter expert on government contracting. I'm putting content out like this. You're coming and finding that. And so you see me as a subject matter expert. Really, the whole purpose of today's session is to get you to do what I'm doing for what you do, whether it's elevators or risk management framework, SharePoint services. Make sure the world can see that you're a subject matter expert, even when you're not the one talking. I call it passive marketing, having these things out there that are passively telling your story when you're not. But you want to put content out there that shows you're a SME in order to rise you above your competition. That's the whole kind of purpose of business, is to beat out your competition. You can be nice to people all day long, but there's only one winner generally in a contract, and you want it to be you. I want it to be you. So showing that you're a subject matter expert in your industry and in your customer base. So an example is, today I'm going to use SharePoint. So I'm an expert at SharePoint. That's one small part of Office 365, which is one small part of overall IT technology or technology services out there. So SharePoint. And then I'm making it even more focused to say in the federal government. So I'm an expert at SharePoint, implementing SharePoint solutions in the federal government to support your mission. You want to be thinking that same way. What's the one thing we're expert at with the federal government to demonstrate it? The next thing I want to talk to you about is using social media. And I think I'm going to share my screen. I don't generally do that on live meetings, but I want to show you just how I do certain social media topics or how I find them. But when you use social media to establish yourself as a SME, it's one thing to put it out, but it sits out there and people just keep engaging in it. Those of you who've been watching my LinkedIn Lives, you know that I just started, 3 weeks ago. I think I'm at the end of my third week. And I'm still getting engagement meaning a thumbs up or a comment or, hey, can you send me that handout, from the ones I did on the very first day. And so when you put stuff out there, people will find it when they need it, not when you're putting it out. And so it's totally okay if I'm doing an event and there's this many people, because I know that there'll be this many people who are going to come later looking for it. Oh, and it just occurred to me, my camera's not on, or it is on. So on social media, just pausing 1 second, I noticed that you can't see me, which is odd. And if somebody can just tell me, you might be saying this in here, but Gus or Cecilia in particular, can you guys see me? I know you can hear me, so fortunately I'm not sharing anything yet. I'll keep going and I'll watch to see, but on my phone, I don't see me. And maybe I just need to do a reset or something. Sorry, 1 second. I want to just, because I'm going to share my screen. And if I'm sharing, I want to make sure you're able to see it. Yesterday, we had a couple of hiccups on, there's the technology. Okay, I see myself. Thanks, Valerie. Okay, so here's a first set of tactical tips, and you can write this down. Otherwise, you can wait and just take the course that's in the chamber, and it's free, so you can take it later. But write it down when you think about it. This roadmap. You want to choose your SME's topic. For me, I chose SharePoint. Right? Somebody else might choose elevators. You're going to say everything about elevators down the road. The next thing is you want to create a social media presence, and so for the federal government space, forget about Facebook and Twitter. That's not federal government. Even though there's activity on there, the federal government buyer is only on LinkedIn and the more passive things, your website, YouTube, but they're not on heavy activity things like Twitter and Facebook. So create your social media presence. You might share it out, your content out on a personal profile, like I do a lot, or on your company profile on LinkedIn, let's say. And in there, you can have a company page. I'm not going into social media teaching about it, but the reason I say social media is because you want to learn about hashtags. And these are just keywords that define you. So for me, if I choose SharePoint, obviously SharePoint's going to be one of my tags, but there's some related activity that's in there that very specifically matches SharePoint. For example, Microsoft, right? I might tag Microsoft in that way. I like to do SharePoint migrations, right? From this version to that version. So I would put it down. And then the last thing is identify industry partners that fit for you. So going with my elevator example, Otis Elevators, I think, is an example out there. I would be finding those kind of people. With SharePoint, it's Microsoft, obviously. And then today, while I was prepping for this, I put in AvePoint. I'll come back and show you in a minute. But with AvePoint, they're a third-party vendor to the Microsoft world, and I should be paying attention to them. So when I want to create subject matter expertise content, it's not just me and what I can create in my own mind, but it's me looking at what Microsoft or AvePoint puts out and interpreting it or commenting on it, which is also called engagement, but interpreting it for my customers. Hey, Microsoft just put out this thing about their conference, and here was 44 slides, but here's my gist of it. Here's the top 10 things that you take away. The last thing I wanted to mention on as it relates to just content, because I realize I'm talking fast, and that's just the way these go. Excuse me. But you want to, when you're thinking about doing subject matter expertise, you don't want to be seen differently in different places. Dynamic small business search, that tool together with your SAM profile, make up your small business profile. That to me feeds into everything you do. And so you want to make sure that all these keywords you're going to be using, the messaging should be clearly stating in there that, hey, we're an expert at this. We're an expert at cybersecurity and risk management framework, or we're an expert at painting and framing a house or a building. Whatever it is, DSBS talks about it. And then as you move into social media, you're taking advantage of the keywords you've already identified for the government's marketing needs into your social content. And then your DSBS information is feeding into your capability statement, it's feeding into your website. So now when you create content and people like the content and they go research you a little more, they see this continuous thread of, oh, Neil really is putting out just all this stuff on GovCon, government contracting. Greg is really putting out all this information on SharePoint. So that's important of it. So I can't possibly be sharing my stuff, am I, Valerie? I'll figure it out. Sorry, I'm such a forgetful IT guy here. I'm kind of screwing it up, but that's fine. I mean, that's the purpose of these lives, is I'm trying to give you the message and the content And that's the part I hope that comes across to you. So if you have questions, definitely ask me. Um, there is when you create content, there's a roadmap to follow. And I'm going to show you in a second how to do this very easily. But you want to create a content planning process when you're demonstrating yourself as a subject matter expertise. And when I say create a content planning process, it literally is an hour. You could spend a day or a week doing that, but that's what you do when you're farther down the road and you hire somebody full time. But if you're a small business owner, or if you're a business developer or capture person who's trying to contribute that expertise of the company to help them brand, thanks, Valerie. If you're trying to do that, create a minimal viable product for your content planning process, which means laying out some sample content, thinking about an outline you might go through. So if I use my SharePoint example, I might sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to do one piece of content a week to start. And I'm going to do one every month. So the beginning of the month, I'm going to do something related to migrations. The second week of the month, I'm going to do something related to software development in SharePoint. The third week, I'm going to do something related to user management or something. So I'm going to pick a topic and I can easily brainstorm it. When you are a subject matter expert, you can do this very easily. You know your world. And so you want to do that is kind of lay out a plan around that. And then you also, remember I said identify your industry partners. You want to be able to take advantage of them. So I might sit there and say at the end, the fourth week, I'm going to share an industry partners piece of content specifically related to whatever they do. I did this actually before I started the GovCon Chamber, and after I sold my last business, I started this fifth business. And for those of you who don't know, I started it was going to be a SharePoint play in the government business or government space. And then I just took my money and my people and said, let's go create the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. Whole separate story. But when I was doing that, I was focused on becoming the most visible SharePoint expert in the federal space. Even though my other business was SharePoint, I had never pushed it hard. Here I was moving in saying, I'm going to compete with Microsoft so that I'm seen more as a SharePoint government expert in the federal space than they are. Now, that's probably not going to happen, but that was my goal. Why shoot for a small goal? Shoot for a big goal. And when I did that, I started creating weekly videos, and I would go in and not analyze, but review apps that Microsoft had on their app store, just like an Apple app store. They had SharePoint apps in there that were done by all these people all around the country, all around the world. And I would just take them, download them, and evaluate them and tell people, do I like the app? Does it work even? Is the install crazy and it doesn't work? Does it do what it says it was doing? I wasn't overly critical on whether I liked the app. What I was critical about is the quality of the install and the quality of, does it meet the minimum expectations of what that title and description was? And the reason I did this is because I knew my customers were constantly frustrated with downloading an app that was out of date, it didn't work anymore, had all these problems. And it had nothing to do with how great the app was. It was just the pure quality sucked or was bad. And so that review was really helpful to people. And that's something I'll talk to you about in a minute going forward. By the way, if you know other people who might find value in this type of content, social media expertise, right? Branding yourself and marketing as a subject matter expert in the GovCon space, tag them right now in the comments. Just, hey, at Neil or something. You should come watch this, or they can watch the replay later. But if you tag them, they'll know about this topic. All right. So the last thing I'm going to talk about, and then I want to show you an example of how I do some of the content that I think when I show you, you will be able to walk away today, tomorrow, plan what you want to do next week. And I'll give you the process for planning next week where you could post every single day content, and it'll take you less than an hour for the entire week. Right. So we'll come back to that. That's what I want to show you before we get out of here. But so I just want to talk to you, though, about process. Government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. Well, marketing and proving that you're a subject matter expertise or expert out in the industry, it's just a process, right? If you leave it to chance, there's a chance they might know you're a subject matter expert. But if you follow a process, they will know you're the subject matter expert on what you do better than anybody else, or at least what you do best, right? And so an example of a process step is just repurposing content. This means creating something and reusing it. And I'm just going to tell you the process that I have here. There's a networking tab. I got to look at that, Mitchell. Maybe I'll ask you later and you tell me. Okay, repurposing content. I follow currently a 5-step process, right? I create a video. Let's say this video I'm recording right now on how to be a SME. Then I write a blog about it. And it's not me, it's my team who does that. But I quickly write a blog about it and put it on our website, govconchamber.com, right? Put it there. Then I write an article. And when I say an article, I mean on LinkedIn, they have something called an article, which is basically like a blog. And I take this content and I put it up there. I'm not rewriting something. I'm taking what I wrote for the blog and I'm putting it into the article, and I have to format it a little bit. But then the article's there. And then I write a post. So on LinkedIn, I would put a post out there saying, hey, I just did this video. And I might wait a day, right? And say, hey, I just did this video yesterday. You should go check out the replay if you want to demonstrate that you're a subject matter expert in the federal arena. And then the last thing I do is I write a tweet. Even though I said Twitter's not the place to be on social media, it takes me 2 seconds, because when I write a post on LinkedIn, which is my place of living, it allows me to say, do you want to throw this post out on Twitter as well? I go, sure. And it just posts it out to Twitter. So the reason for putting it out there is just increasing the number of channels or places people might find you. But it's done together with LinkedIn. So dropping that in there. Later on, you can improve the process, but that's basically it. Create one piece of content, like a video, write a blog about it, duplicate that blog as a LinkedIn article, reference the article in the video, sending people maybe back to your website in a LinkedIn post, and throw it up onto Twitter, and you're done. I know I make that seem simple. It's a process. Process is kind of easy to see, but it takes a little time to get good at. That's just skill development. And so if you accept the fact that the skills can be developed by learning the process, then you will get good at this. I've been doing this a long time. And so, I talk like it's just easy breezy. Okay, so let me share my screen, and which is always fun for me. So I'm going to share my entire screen, and I'm going to look in a second. But what the first thing you should be seeing is this handout, and I'll be happy to send the handout, but it's where I talk about the process in here. So I'm just waiting to see if it transfers from one to the other. There it goes. Okay, so it's sharing. Perfect. So this handout, you can take a look at it later. That's not what I want to show you. I want to show you this. So what I did, and this is what I'm recommending you could do, is I'm very good at what I do, and I can write brand new content, fresh content, right? This thing I'm doing today, I'm not resharing somebody else's. I'm sharing fresh content. But it's totally acceptable to get started with sharing other people's content. And you make sure you're giving them credit. And there's ways to do that even get them to very much appreciate that you're sharing. But I share the content out there. And so here's what I did. I came into LinkedIn, and I don't know if you see at the top, but I just typed in the word SharePoint and searched that in LinkedIn. I changed it to 2 things. Show me SharePoint related to posts. That's telling me avoid people. I don't need to see people related to SharePoint. I only want to see what's the content. And then the other thing is show me what was posted in the last 30 days. As I scroll down here, let me get rid of this thing. As I scroll down, I would say 60% are job postings. And I'm not going to show you this here, but so I just scroll down, right? And as I scrolled, hey guy, I just would find content. And that's what I put over here. So the first piece of content I found, I feel like I'll be hiding Pamela here every time. The first piece of content I found is this guy he's from Finland, but he's a program manager for Microsoft. So I don't care what country he's from. I'm doing SharePoint. He's a SharePoint expert at Microsoft. So I liked his content. I made a mistake actually already. I missed his article. Let me show this to you. His post here, he just put out like this post here, right? He just put out this post talking about a demo on a particular technology. So I'm able to go in and find this video that he has and look at Microsoft. And I don't want to go too far into it, but this is consuming graph services on SSO, right? It's 20 minutes. I can decide to watch it if I want to learn it, and then write a couple of bullets about it and share it back out. Another example, and this one I do have set up. This one here is another Microsoft person. And this one here is, they're showing something about SharePoint AI optimization. And In here, he's talking about the rolling out the new OCR engine, right? Optical character recognition, et cetera. You don't have to worry about the technology. The point is, here is another expert over at Microsoft Viva that is putting out content related to what my customers might want to see. I don't need my customers to only see what I create. I'm okay with sharing. Josh Frank is a government contracting expert. He's got a firm, RSM Federal, I think it's called. Sorry, Josh. But he's out in the middle of the country and he's an expert around the country on helping people. If he's got good content, I don't mind sharing it and putting it out. People will come to him and people will come to me. That's not a problem. But so this article here, I could share it. I could click on it and read it myself. Obviously, you want to read it before you're sharing anything, but I can see the gist of this and what's going on. And this one's very straightforward. If you're sharing content, it would take you 2 seconds as a subject matter expert to say, hey, great article on this thing. I love this particular part. I think you might find it valuable too, or you might expand on it. I'm just going to move through these fairly fast because I'm at the 23 mark. Here's another one that I really liked, right? It's somebody from the Microsoft Technology Center, and this was at a Microsoft 365 conference. In here, he's sharing out 44 slides that related to this conference. And right here, I can see the topic they're talking about and where they're going into migrations and data access governance. This is good stuff. I can see that in here, I would probably find things that would be interesting to me. Here, it talks about upcoming capabilities. My customers might want to know about SharePoint upcoming capabilities. So I can talk about that. Excuse me. The thing I liked best about this one, though, is this hashtag 365 conference. I'm like, oh, I didn't know about that. And I'd be willing to bet that I can go to that conference and go search, and I would find a lot more content. I can look at it, interpret it for other people, tell them why it's a great 44 pages they should look at, and here's another one. And it allows me to get expertise or subject matter expertise credit by sharing out to industry and to my customers some really helpful information for them. Let me go to this one here. It's another example. This person was great. Catherine is a deputy general counsel at some place, right? Whatever Armstrong Group is. And she wrote this article related to how to use SharePoint to manage your legal department. And if I'm doing SharePoint and we're in the legal world, right? I was only in the federal space, but we still helped organizations like Department of Justice who had lawyers, the White House who has a ton of lawyers, rolling out solutions in SharePoint that fit legal needs. And so I would love to look at this. I could engage it or whatever, and then share it back out. You can see there's only one comment. I might actually make a comment in there about what did I like about the article. But when I go to share this, a tip might be I would reach out to Catherine and say, Catherine, loved your article. I'd love to share it with my connections. Do you mind if I share the article and then give you credit within the post? And everybody's going to say yes, right? It's just a normal way of doing business, but she'll appreciate it. Now you're introducing yourself to Catherine. You might see more stuff she puts out. She might be aware that I'm a SharePoint expert, whatever it is. I think this might be the last one, and I wanted to point. So this one, this one was a sidebar for 1 second. Nicole, I told you there was a lot of jobs, but I was coming through and I helped customers with the Navy, and I noticed this right away that multiple software developer roles available in Dahlgren, Virginia, and Dahlgren is where Naval Surface Warfare Center is. I'm assuming that this is what it's for, and I found this as I was doing an example, and one of the people who were probably on this call does SharePoint out of San Diego, is trying to get in the Navy, and is engaged. And so this is an example of me trying to find content, which led to a potential subcontracting arena. Because if they're looking for this stuff and they're willing to sponsor for the clearances, then maybe they'd be open to me subcontracting. I wouldn't necessarily talk to Nicole directly. I would go look at Super Systems and see if there was somebody I could meet in there, et cetera. But I just wanted to point that out. I thought that was a really good sidebar while I was looking for content. This last one I wanted to show, and then I'll wrap up and look if there's questions. But so this guy, TJ, formed AvePoint, which is a huge partner to Microsoft, been around forever, and a lot of good stuff. He put out a post that I happened to engage. Let me just refresh this because it was a little while ago, 38 minutes ago. And I noticed it when I was, throwing up some of these things. And so I came in here and I gave it a like. And then because Greg is out in San Diego, he's one of the people I said it. This is something to keep in mind. Sometimes you don't have to share the content, you put it in, but basically what I say here is I built my last company based on this guy and his company's success. He had a product, but he wasn't really selling it to the government. He wanted to sell it, but he didn't have a sales force. And we were in with the government. I was like, I'll sell it. It happened to be his product was the best. And so it was a great way to engage in there. And I don't know who liked it, but here's TJ. He owns that company. It's a huge company, and he's got a whole bunch of people. And then same thing with this guy, Jason, both of them at AvePoint. If I was Greg and I'm going through looking at this content, this is some of the side benefit of looking for content that you can share with your customers. You might engage people like TJ. And TJ is a super nice guy, to the point where he might put you in touch with his federal salespeople, blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, you're making tens of millions of dollars. Might not happen that fast.